So this question looks like it's straight up for you. This is Duane from Florida.
Hi, Duane.
Hey guys, hey BrainBug, hey Puck. Actually did call specifically because BrainBug was on. I heard your little intro and you sounded like the perfect person to help me out.
All right. What do you got?
So, like you, I keep exotics. My specialty is reptiles. I keep monitors primarily. So much fun. But part of all of that is I've got a cousin. She's 17. Her and I are really close. And she loves the animals, you know, same line that I do. So we go to zoos, we go to reptile shows, we go to all these different events just to kind of see all these really cool animals. And I'm an atheist. She is a young earth creationist. So when we're traveling 2 to 3 hours to go to these shows or go to these zoos, the topic of evolution tends to come up because that's one of my favorite things to study. And as soon as I bring up anything about any animals being related, she just kind of does the stick her fingers in the ear and say Noah's Ark.
I actually have something awesome for you to talk about. I don't want you to do it. You can do it, but I don't want you to. At these reptile shows, I'm sure you've seen them before. They're adorable. Axolotls, right? They're aquatic amphibians, and they're related to salamanders. I know you probably are familiar with them. This is for the audience. So axolotls are indigenous, and they're highly endangered in the wild to this lake that's under Mexico City. And they never mature. They have these feathery gills on their on the sides of their necks for generations upon generations since we first discovered them. They've always been immature. So we took, and they breed well in captivity. I've raised them myself. They're really fun. They're adorable. And they have some cool features like the ability to regrow limbs. And so they're significant to scientific research. But if you expose them to iodine, just iodine, it triggers a polyphenic response for them to mature, and they become very much like their salamander cousins, being able to move terrestrial. They lose their gills, they change colors and take on the black coloration of a tiger salamander with the yellow spots on it. So we can see that this species diverged from this group to live in this lake, and due to the to their genetics being favored to stay in this neonatic state. Neonatic means retaining juvenile form. To stay in this neonatic state, to live in this lake was favored, obviously, because of the nature of the lake, and I believe parts of it are underground. So it was a really good environment for them to never mature out and have to try to venture onto land. They were successful in there, so they stopped having that step in their growth to take that adult form, yet they're still able to reproduce. So the fact that we can be a simple chemical, iodine, inspire them to change and to evolve into a fully mature salamander form is a great example of evolution. It's not one species turning into another where you point to this species and this monitor lizard. Oh, this savanna monitor is, cousins to this water monitor over here. It's not that scenario. It's this individual species we can alter and make it so that it regresses back to its ancestral forms. Pretty cool stuff. It's the same kind of stuff. Like we'll see it with like chickens too, that they can get them to in the embryonic stages, get them to regrow teeth. There's been a few different projects to try to regress domestic cattle back to the ancestral state, and because the auroch is extinct, the ancestor of all our domestic cattle is extinct. So there's been experiments to regress it back to that. So I think those are excellent examples to show what we have done and what we can do to exemplify evolution in real time.
Yeah, this hits home for me a little bit because the Creation Museum, and I use that term very lightly, is only about 50 miles that way. And it seems like they have a gigantic gallery of information and scientists that are backing up whatever it is that they're talking about. But the thing is, it's a Gish Gallop. And fortunately, we do have people who can debunk every little step, every single claim that they make, from lay people like Vice Rhino to more people who are, in the scientific field saying that this is not possible. Getting a cousin to listen is a completely different story. And sometimes that doesn't work out unless they're willing to. So I'm just kind of curious. It's like, how have conversations gone? Like you said, she just kind of plugs her ears and doesn't really care, or has she just not been subject to the right information?
It's, she goes to a Christian school. She's heavily involved in the church. So, I try not to bring up too much because I know it's not going to go well. But it's one of those things, like, we're sitting in the car for 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes we're traveling all day between different, we'll go like down south to Fort Lauderdale. We'll hit 2 or 3 different reptile shops in Fort Lauderdale, go to the Miami Zoo. So we're on the road all day and we're talking about these animals. And for me, I'll bring up, crocodilians are my favorite. And I'll talk about the different, how they diverged and all that. And she just kind of rolls her eyes. She's a teenage girl, rolls her eyes and just kind of ignores everything I say.
Other than our modern crocodilians that do the aquatic ambush predator shtick, we have multiple crocodilians in the fossil record that have evolved to fill different ecological niches, from a marine environment where like the Methisuchids. We have arboreal crocodiles that climb trees, even ones that ran. We had one that looked basically like an armadillo. Would being able to see some of the diversity that crocodiles used to have maybe help her to understand that? I still think that planting these little seeds, not saying this is evolution, but just saying, hey, look at these crocodiles. Or like I was talking with axolotl, look at this animal and what we can do with its ethology. So.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing from her social circumstances, being involved in church and going to Christian school, it's very possible that there's just too much of a web of supporting. Like, even if you knock out one limb from this particular tree, there's still so many others that will continue to support that. And some people aren't ready for it, and it's not their time to start seriously questioning everything. Getting to question evolution is an interesting start, though, because there's so much in science that depends on having a good understanding of biology. And so this is, you probably picked the best fight to fight. You picked the best person to possibly start this off with. But I'm curious, what does she bring up as counter evidence, if at all, or does she just stop listening?
So I've not brought up evolution to the point where it's become a serious discussion, just because it goes nowhere fast. I know all the counter arguments. You talk about the Art Museum. She wants to go there. She wants me to take her there on one of our trips.
I would go just for curiosity, only if it didn't put money in the wrong pockets.
I would get thrown out of the Art Museum.
Yeah. I almost want to go through there and have, all the counterpoints pulled up. But anyhow, the one serious discussion we got into at one point over religion and stuff like that, just kind of give you an example of the way it'll go, or tends to go, is we were talking about how the 10 Commandments didn't inspire the U.S. government and all that. Like, 10 Commandments weren't the original laws. And we kind of had a pretty serious discussion for a couple hours about it. And I brought up Hammurabi and his tablet and how much older that was. And the next day, she's like, oh, I'll think about it. And the next day she sends me like 6 sources, but they're all from like different apologetics.
Creation ministries.
She's got this data bank. Yeah,
See, that comes down to sources too. But as someone that's that young, you're not going to be able to say no. That's a bad source, and this is a good source. And hand them like Dr. Josh Bowen's book or something. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to spin that with her at this age. But maybe further down the road. Right now, like I said, I'd be planting those seeds about evolution. Talk maybe about domestication and how we can alter the genetics of a species to exhibit different characteristics, and how that might happen naturally in the wild, and why that might happen. Just plant those seeds.
Yeah. And you're putting yourself in a good position because you are someone that this cousin can talk to. And that is like incredibly valuable, instead of just shutting you out because you're one of the world. And you are, since you are of the world, you have absolutely nothing of value to say. You're in there. You're in a better position than all of us are, because you're someone that this person is willing to talk to. And that's what I like try to keep emphasizing anytime I'm on an ACA show. It's like we can have the conversation with the callers, and the people who are listening will get something out of it. But then the people who are listening will take these conversations on to other people, and you will be able to touch many more people than us hosts ever could. So thank you, Duane, for fighting the good fight for us, and continuing this. Like, as far as like changing your mind about evolution, BrainBug got it right. Just like start planting the seeds, start a little bit at a time. And when it comes to whether or not the 10 Commandments were a basis for American law, I don't know of any jurisdiction that's actually made it illegal to have graven images. So you can start with a Commandment 3 right off the bat.
That was one I just kind of gave up on that one after seeing all that. It's that one is not worth the fight for me necessarily, because it's not a big enough issue. But the evolution thing, I mean, our shared interest in the animals, that's going to be a huge thing, and that's going to hamper her when she goes to college if she's got that mindset going into biology courses and going into any science courses. That mind of thinking.
That's a good direction to keep her going too. Most of the people that I know that came out of religion, and I know a lot of people who come out of religion that are science communicators like myself, they came out of it under the influence of somebody like you in their life. So keep that in mind too. The fact that she keeps engaging with you. I know you said she shuts down when you get into evolution, but if she doesn't shut down when you plant those little seeds about different things that may imply evolution, cultivars, domestication, the species that we discussed before, dinosaurs, talking about extinct species, going to the museum and looking at the ages of life, looking through these the geological record, because most museums have a good if they're a natural history museum, they have a good section that'll talk about the geological column. That's one of the things that you can almost find in any natural history museum. So looking at that might help, exploring what was found on those layers.
All right, Duane, thank you very much for giving us a call. You know what? Keep us informed. Let us know how the conversations are going. And, there's a rather robust list of materials that people on Discord will be happy to give you to counter any evidence that, I use that word again very loosely, any evidence that your cousin might bring up about creation. So keep up the fight and keep up the conversations and keep talking to us. So thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Take care, Duane.
Thank you guys for talking. Appreciate it.